So I had this thing all picked out. I was just going to pull the trigger, talking to my wife about it. My wife said, "You should maybe check the law first." I said, I did. I did last year. I didn't have the money then, but I was window shopping these things and checking the law. Japan has about the most liberal, permissive law in the world on these things. "Are you sure about that?" she says. I say, "Yes." And I recite the very easy to comply with regulations to her. "But," I said, "if it makes you feel better, I will check again, just for you." Well, it turns out, earlier this year, this summer, Japan passed the most draconian law in the world, making these things, well, putting them out of reach for most people, certainly out of reach for me, unless you want to pay huge license fees and be monitored, tracked and monitored, and no thank you, say I. That's not how I roll. So I took the girls to a flea market this morning. Flea market. Gorgeous helicopter. If people want to fly helicopters around this colossal solar calendar, maybe carrying payloads, hey, two can play at that game. Now, I don't want to say anything out loud, and I don't want to tell my wife just yet, but if you have psychic mind-reading powers, see, I'm as transparent as glass to you and to the authorities and the imperial household. Not quite as transparent to my wife just yet, but I'll eventually have to bring her along. I'm thinking, first, get proficient with this here gorgeous helicopter, then scale up, invest a little more money, get good quality, and pursue a new hobby. As far as I know, it's perfectly legal and proper, and as far as I know, this is public land. Maybe in Canada we'd call it crown land, imperial household property, but open to the public. You're perfectly free to go hiking and snooping around and taking photos and commenting on the scenery that you see, as far as I know. If the emperor or his representatives wanted me to stop, they'd only have to come and talk to me. Just knock on my door or call me up. You can find me easily. Explain the situation and explain to me how I'm behaving unseemly, or my presence is inconvenient, or I'm being unneighborly, or whatever. Ask me to stop, I would stop. I only, always seek the best for the emperor and his family. I pray for them. I'm personally loyal to them, and they've been nothing but good to me. I'm on their side, as far as I'm concerned. So, that's out there. Agencies or the police, you can. I invite you, get a hold of me, and correct me anytime, correct my thinking. if I am out of line. Well, there you go. It was my cousin Lisa's birthday yesterday, and I wrote her to thank her, as I do from time to time. If she hadn't been born, I would not be here now. She saved my life in 1981, the summer of 1981. So I write her sometimes and tell her how much I love my life, love my family, how much I'm looking forward to my golden years, and I have so many plans that I want to do, how thankful I am to be alive. Thank you, Lisa. Back to the Kojiki today, the earliest Japanese document. And it is a doozy. Do I believe all of it? No. I don't swallow it whole. But there's some interesting stuff in it. Some of it I do believe. I really do believe with all my heart. For instance, Chapter 1. The opening lines. Let me read this to you. The names of the god that was born in the plain of high heaven, when the heaven and earth began, was the God, master of the august center of heaven. Next, the high, august, producing, wondrous God. Next, the divine, producing, wondrous God. These three, God, was all God, born alone, and hid their persons. Basil Hall Chamberlain, whom I love this guy, he translates it deities, plural, and uses plural verbs, but that's not in the Japanese. You can translate it either way. My way produces a perfectly orthodox presentation of the Holy Trinity. I might quibble over the word born, but you know. I would still accept this as orthodox truth that I do believe. I'll read it again. The names of the God that was born in the plain of high heaven, when the heaven and earth began, was the God, master of the august center of heaven. Next, the high, august, producing, wondrous God. Next, the divine, producing, wondrous God. These three, God was all God, born alone, and hid their persons. It kind of tells you more than the opening lines of Genesis. Well, anyway, I've read to you chapters 6 and 7, ending with the mother goddess Izanami dying and being buried on Mount Hiba. Once more, quote, so he, that is Izanami's brother and husband, so he buried the divinely retired deity, the female who invites, on Mount Hiba at the boundary of the land of Idzumo and the land of Hahaki. Okay, chapter 8, the very next chapter, same setting, same scene, Mount Hiba. We're still on Mount Hiba. Please understand. Mount Hiba. Now, by the way, I want to go back to chapter 7 later. There's something in that text that is very interesting. But today, chapter 8. Mount Hiba. The scene is Mount Hiba. Quick review. Chapter 7. Izanami gave birth to the fire deity who burned her august private parts. She sickened and died, giving birth in the process to more deities, in her vomit, feces, and urine. The names of the deities born from her vomit should have grabbed your attention. Someone should have commented on that. Let me tell you their names again. The deity Metal Mountain Prince and the deity Metal Mountain Princess. Remember, ironworking, Japanese ironworking, began here. Mount Hiba is loaded with iron sands, easily extracted, easily melted, easily worked. So ironworking was born here. Metal Mountain. The word that Basil Hall Chamberlain translates deity is kami. Kami. A quick word on that. You can translate it God, deity, divinity, spirit, holy power, phenomenon, mind, principle. But I'm going to go with Motori Norinaga, who wrote the definitive 44-volume commentary on the Kojiki. This guy is the Kojiki authority. Now he, Mr. Norinaga here, he defines kami as, quote, any being whatsoever which possesses some eminent quality out of the ordinary and is awe-inspiring is called kami, end quote. Okay, so that is a sweeping category into which you could put the Lord God if he inspires awe, a grizzly bear, a mother grizzly bear, if she inspires awe, a waterfall, a sunset, a particularly good whiskey, a dreadful disease, smallpox, cancer, any being whatsoever which possesses some eminent quality out of the ordinary and is awe-inspiring is called kami. One thing that you can hear it in the voices of eyewitnesses even years after their encounters, even decades after, with Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Hebegone, is awe. I've never even seen one, but they inspire awe in me. So, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Hebegone fall into this kami category, using the definition of the Kojiki expert Motori Norinaga. So back to the Kojiki, Chapter 8. The bereaved Izanagi, in rage, slays his son, the fire kami, chops his head off. From his sword fall drops of blood. These drops of blood turn into kami, awe-inspiring beings. The scene, once again, is Mount Hiba. Now, let me just read to you just the names of these kami, these awe-inspiring beings born on Mount Hiba. These are their names. There are 16 in all. Rock Splitter, Root Splitter, Rock Possessor Elder, Awfully Swift, Fire Swift, Brave Awful Possessor, Brave Snapper, Chamberlain's translation, but the text says Takefutsu no Kami. I translate that Bamboo Snapper. Next is luxuriant snapper. Then two names that are untranslated, and they're in archaic Japanese. I'll need to study those more. They both share a root character for dark. So, dark places, maybe dark shadows. Maybe they are dark in color. I don't know. I don't know now. Then there are possessor of the true pass of the mountains. He knows his way around the mountains, I guess. Possessor of the descent of the mountains. Possessor of the innermost mountains. Possessor of the dark mountains. Possessor of the densely wooded mountains. Possessor of the outlying mountains. Possessor of the moorland mountains. Now let me ask you, do these awe-inspiring beings born on Mount Heba sound like anyone you know? I'll just leave that with you. By the way, I am thinking about publishing an English language Kojiki using the Chamberlain translation as a base, but there are places where I would translate things differently. Would anyone be interested in that? If you would be, please let me know. Okay. Big oyster roast tonight at my house in my megalithic kitchen. If you're in the area, come on by. You're all welcome. Happy birthday, Cousin Lisa. Love, all my love and personal loyalty to the Emperor. And I love you.